Okay, I'm gonna think here. And you and I, Teresa, we met through Gordon, and Gordon attended a an event, I think in Vegas, if I'm right. And he's like, "Oh, you gotta sit down and you gotta meet Teresa." I'm like, "Okay," I mean, usually when people come to me, they say I have to meet someone, I do. So we got to have I guess it was like a small, 20, 30-minute call maybe. And I eventually got to be on your podcast. And ultimately it led to where I was able to speak at your event this past January, which was great down in Texas. I got to meet a lot of people and got to share my journey. And I loved it, every minute of it. So I'm so thankful that you and grateful that you were able to invite me and Giselle down there where we were able to share all that. So I know a little bit about you, even though, we've talked multiple times and I heard more about your story every once in a while. And I know you're doing some incredible things with Unbreakable and you just keep moving forward. We just had a little quick conversation before this. So I would love for you to just share with the listeners, the viewers, who is Teresa right now at this moment? What are you up to?
Wow. Thank you. John, what an exciting time it is to be alive today, right? Thank you for that warm introduction. And thank you for saying yes when somebody made a recommendation for us to connect. Because sometimes you're like, "Oh, I don't know." But I know that you are one that follows good prompting. So I'm glad you said yes. So who am I? My name is Theresa Pore. I have adopted the title that I am an identity architect. Love that. But really and truly, John, with our business, our mission, our movement is to help people answer the two questions that they face in life the most. And that is, who am I and why am I here? I'll tell you, God took me on a phenomenal journey of answering those two questions myself, so that I would be equipped and have the burning desire to help other people do that. And that's really what we get to do every single day. So I'm honored to get to share that with you today.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's just dive right into it. So who are you?
Well, you know what? Today, again, I am a movement maker. I am helping people rediscover their value, their gifts, and their purpose and share it with the world. But
Mhm.
about 5 years ago, I was a lost person. I was struggling day to day with different activities, with all of the hats that I wore. Truly, I wore the homeschool mom hat, the wife hat, the partner in business hat with my husband, the Mary Kay Cosmetics hat, the speaker hat, the coach hat, every hat I could, but none of them seemed to fit because they really weren't who Theresa Poor was. And I was just miserable. Um, so I took this journey of self discovery, this journey of looking inward, and it just unfolded some beautiful, challenging, wonderful work that has given me complete freedom. So that's Teresa today and Teresa from like 5 years ago. In the middle was messy.
Was it really? Nah, it can't be. What was the most miserable part that you would love to share?
The most miserable or messy part?
Yeah.
Sure. You know, I think I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced when I was going through this work was understanding that I had a whole lot of walls built around my heart. And all of those walls were there for a season. Like they were there specifically for reasons, walls that I had to go into protection mode, walls of quieting down, walls of not being too expressive, right? All of these different walls. And so even when I had come to the place, John, of saying, I need some help, like I need to figure out who this human is behind all these walls, I had walls up there. And I remember my first conversation with my life coach at the time, and she's like, Teresa, I'm gonna have you do these assessments. And I'm like, huh, I've already done it. I'm a snob. I already know everything about myself. So I think probably the hardest part for me at that time was realizing that I had inadvertently, through preservation and protection, built a whole bunch of walls and they were really heavy.
Hmm. So how hard was it to bring those walls down?
It was hard. Um, It was hard because I couldn't see them. Have you ever, like, found yourself, John, in a situation where you feel like you're shadow boxing? Are you familiar with the terminology of shadow boxing?
Explain it, 'cause I wanna make sure that I can say yes or no.
Yeah. So shadow boxing, it's like you're in a rink. You're in this boxing rink, but you get punched in the face and you're like, I didn't see that hit coming. And so you swing, but then you miss and then you try to swing somewhere else. And at the entire time, you just feel like you're getting hit left and right, left and right. And you're fighting a shadow, but you don't know what it is and you can't find it.
Mm.
That was the challenging part of putting down the walls is because they were all invisible. They just would show up in different places, right? I would have a wall that would pop up in my marriage, and I would have a wall that would pop up as being a mom and feeling like I wasn't a maybe a good enough mom in many different seasons of life, and so I would hold back, right? I have a wall that my parents, they weren't super, um, uh the touch wasn't a love language necessarily in our house, and so we didn't express those feelings a lot. So when I became a parent, I had a lot of walls to not express because I didn't think it was okay, right? All these walls that I didn't know I had, and they would pop up in different areas of life. And so I think that was probably the most challenging and frustrating piece, was literally that process of shadow boxing.
Mm.
I will say that, I had this really incredible experience at a women's retreat in June of 2022, where I sat around this beautiful group of about 10 different women that I had never met outside of Zoom. And, they were from all over the world. My coach was from Australia. We had the individuals from Canada, individuals from the United Kingdom, just all over the world. And here we are after meeting for a year and a half on Zoom, and we're in the same room together. And I have a wall up, like, because I'm like, I'm not going to show my vulnerability with these people. In fact, one of the first things I said when they're all crying is, I'm like, "Shh, I don't cry. I don't cry." And she challenged me a little bit. She says, I bet by the end of this weekend you'll cry. I'm like, nah, nah. But throughout this weekend of just being in a place of getting away from all of the surroundings, all of the walls that I had built, being in a separate new place, we did a lot of activities. And John, for the very first time, I had this like vision in front of me and I could see the wall. I
Mm.
could see the wall. Now it was a metaphorical wall at that point, right? But I could see it, and it was so big and so massive. I saw it through a representation of, like, this shield that was in front of me, but when I saw it, it was like I could see it, I could feel it, I could feel the weight of it, and I also could give myself permission to put it down, and that became, like, the catalyst moment for so many beautiful things.
But it took this event to make that all happen?
It took to see it. Yeah.
And what was special about the event that allowed that to happen for you?
I think for me, it was being away from all of I feel like when we're going through a journey of life, our nervous system is all, stressed. We've got triggers around us. And a lot of times our triggers are our own personal environments, right? And when you think of like your house, your own personal house, you've got a lot of walls and you know how to navigate them. You know how to walk through and the doors and all that kind of thing. And so you know what to expect. And so you can navigate through life when you put yourself in a situation that's new and fresh and maybe with new people. I felt like it allowed me to be in a place that I didn't know where things were. I didn't know how to hide from things. I didn't know how to walk through the doors to not run into the wall. And I was kind of forced to face some things. And so, as far as like, what did we do? There was a lot of, journaling time, meditation, specific guided questions, things like that. But really, it was just, I think it was being in a place and being in a season of, I didn't have a choice, I had to face it.
Mm. Yeah, I also agree, stepping out of our environment sometimes and putting ourselves somewhere else can
Mhm.
allow us to grow in different ways. And I know that you kind of share like, I'm not gonna be vulnerable. I'm not, tough girl, right? Um, but you broke down. Being around those people allowed you to be like, "Okay, I can be real, I can be myself," and that got you to that place. So, what happened after that event? Like, how did you went home, right? And I'm sure you went maybe right back to how you were? I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So it's so interesting, and this is part of this huge journey. So it was about 2019 when I decided I needed to start working with a life coach, that our businesses were struggling. We have multiple businesses. Again, I mentioned we homeschool, or I homeschooled. She's graduated this year. That's a new thing. But we had all these responsibilities, and it was that season that I decided it was time to look inward and do some real work. And so fast forward, that was 2019. Now here it was 2022 in June that I go to this retreat. And I'll tell you, when I left the retreat, by the way, I did cry probably for about an hour. And, they laughed and cried with me. I mean, it was really, really awesome. Laughed because they were like, haha, she thought she was going to get away with
Hmm.
it. But it was all in love. And, um, and John, I will say, that while I felt like those walls were so metaphorical and all of that, when I left that retreat, everything that could have possibly gone wrong, like the flight was delayed, all of these weird things happened, but it didn't bother me. Like, I just felt like I floated home. Because literally, I released the weight and the burden of all of these walls that I had just truly held on to for dear life around me. And so I literally felt like I was floating home, and I had this beautiful conversation with this person with no agenda, no reason. It was beautiful, right? And then I got home, and you know how getting home, you've gone to conferences and functions and things like that. Reentry is real,
Hmm.
right? And my husband's like, "Well, how was it?" And I'm like, "I can't explain it." Right? Well, no, really, how was it? No, stop talking. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
Uh, but that was fine. I will say though, and in the way, and I am a very much in tune with the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. I'm very much into my faith. And I also believe that the word of God is true, and that it says that as soon as the word is sown, the enemy comes to steal and to kill and to destroy. And so I had this beautiful experience, and it led, as soon as I got home, we dealt with a very troubling, terrifying, terrible experience in our house. But one thing that, as we started healing from that, that I realized is that experience that we went through was one of great magnitude. It was a huge betrayal. It hurt us, it hurt our family, it hurt our kids, it hurt our community. But I didn't pick the walls back up.
Hmm.
And that, to me, was a testament to the fact that something inside of me had really shifted, that it wasn't a temporary shift. It was a real shift, that I had really given myself permission to get back to the Theresa Pore that I was created to be. I still had to find her. I still had to figure out who she was. There was more work to do, but I didn't go back into hiding behind a wall. And that was a profound shift.
Yeah, so I found something here, with the empathy muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you wanna expand on that a little bit? Because we're in that ballpark area.
Sure, yeah. I talk about that a lot, actually. It's fun that you bring that up. I used to pray. So both of my kids, I have two beautiful children, and both of them are empaths. And like they can feel everybody's emotion. Like you walk, they know. And I'm not wired that way, John.
Hmm.
I am not wired that way. And I believe there's a reason in God's infinite wisdom that I'm not wired that way, because I am a change agent. And if I carried the burden of everybody's emotions, I probably wouldn't be able to be the change agent that I am today. I really believe that. But I used to pray and say, God, help me to be more empathetic with my children, because I don't understand the way that they see life and the things that they're feeling. And I don't know how to just be present with that and sit with those emotions with them, because I'm just like, run through it and move on.
Mhm.
And so I prayed for that. And they say, don't pray for patience, or, we'll give you reasons to be patient. Well, I prayed for empathy. And I believe that God gave me in that season and seasons prior, but specifically in that healing season that I went through, empathy muscle. He gave me some really good reasons to learn empathy, and I tell you, you can't typically have real empathy unless you've actually experienced something. And, and so in my footprint in my life and the things that I've experienced, we've experienced during that really short period of time, loss of 2 parents, Royal's dad and my mom, a severe attack against one of my children. One of my children choosing a alternate lifestyle that's very different than what my husband and I chose and what we believe in that charted our, that really tested our faith and how are we going to respond in a situation like this. And so all of these different areas, now I have this incredible empathy muscle for victims of certain violence, for people that have lost loved ones on a magnified scale, for the LGBTQ community, for, people with different situations of health. I literally felt like God said, "Well, I can't make you an empath, and I don't want you to be one, but I can give you some empathy muscle." And that's exactly what he did. So I used that. Yeah, that a lot.
Yeah. So how does that work? Did you like have to teach yourself like different thoughts, like to be more open to kind of feel?
I did, you know what? When you walk through something, you just feel it.
Hmm.
Right? And so do I have empathy for everything? No, because 'cause I'm not an empath, right? I can't feel what you're feeling. I have several people, in fact, one of my coaches on my team is incredibly empathetic. Just through a Zoom meeting, she can feel your emotions, right? Like, she is in tune with that, and that's not anything I have, but what I talk about is I've had enough really challenging experiences that God has given me the ability to understand pain at certain levels so that when I am coaching or supporting or helping somebody build, hey, I know what it feels like to almost lose your business. I know what it feels like to almost, walk through tragedy with your spouse. I know what it feels like to walk through, you know what I mean? So that's what I mean by empathy muscle is having, those experiences where none of them were fun.
Yeah. So you get to share that and you're being more vulnerable, right? And they're being receptive to listening
Yeah,
and you're being receptive to listening as well, right? Hearing what they're going
absolutely.
through. Yeah.
And I think that that's so big, and really and truly, no matter what our roles are in this planet, God gave us an opportunity to serve one another, and that's it,
Mm.
right? And, with love and kindness, and somewhere along the way, we put up all these walls. We've decided that vulnerability was a four-letter word, right? And, we've lost the real four-letter word, which is love. And so empathy gives us love.
Love it.
Ah!
Yeah. That's great. So I love how you just shared all that. Because I had some strong, heavy walls too, and it took somebody very special to bring that down. And I know it wasn't easy. So, uh, but yeah, so like those are the things we have to kind of overcome and just know that not everybody is going to be the same as, maybe somebody affected you to have those walls, right? So we have to remember that. So that 'Cause that's the thing, we could talk about boundaries, triggers, all that kinda stuff, right? And so, you have to be receptive and just lean in a little bit, put the walls down, build your empathy muscle, right?
Yeah.
And just get stronger in so many areas. Um, I would love for you to share a little bit more about what you're doing today. I know I went down to the event in Texas, and it was, the Unbreakable, event, and I enjoyed my time there, and I know you've been doing this for some time. So would you love to share some history on that and why this became to be what it is today?
Absolutely, thank you. Before we move on to that, I wanna share one more thing about
Sure.
empathy and muscle, um, and it really all ties back to all of this. Some of the empathy muscles, I think about the muscles in our body, like, our calves can be really big muscles where maybe our, different areas of our body, the muscle's not quite as large, like our eyelids, there's muscles in there, but they're not gonna show up as much, right?
Right.
And one of the things that I wanna share is, we have these big events that happen in our life, big events that are catastrophic, that give us that real strong, big muscle to reach somebody where you wouldn't have had the ability to reach them, right? When I lost my mom to cancer, I didn't understand prior to that the phrase F cancer. Like, I didn't understand that. Or cancer sucks or whatever, right?
Mhm.
I didn't have that. But once I had it, I had it. And that calf muscle is strong. But then there's also muscles like our eyelids. And when I think about our eyelid muscle, this is the one that I really want to share today because it applies to everybody. And it requires a little bit of internal work. But John, when I learned about the emotional needs, when I was going through my healing journey and I learned about how Tony Robbins coins that we all have emotional needs. And those emotional needs are going to be there's 6 different needs and they're going to vary and some are stronger than others at different times, and one of them is safety, and one of them is safety and security. Another one is variety, like, gotta have variety, right? Another one is, to have growth and significance and contribution. Like, these are all love and belonging. These are all emotional needs that we have. And through that journey of self-discovery for myself, that eyelid muscle started working because the way we see other people in their pain is really reflective of how we see ourselves in our pain, right? And so, one of the strongest muscles that I've really worked to develop is how I see people in their pain. And that can be reflected now of instead of seeing maybe the damage that they're doing or the hardship that they're in or the manifestation of the pain, now I see emotional needs that aren't necessarily being met. And I can go back and I can say, huh, that behavior is behavior, but there's something behind the surface. What is it that I need to provide support and love them through? What emotional need is missing that's causing this, right? And that's what I really want to share around that empathy muscle because that's true empathy is being able to sit there with somebody and see beyond the symptoms, see beyond the behavior, and really see that human that's hurting from one need or another that's not being met.
Yeah, so how do you show up to that?
Yeah. Well, a big thing, in our family, right? And so if my husband is acting like angry about something, well, I've got to sit back and ask him some questions to really uncover is this a safety and security thing? Like what's happening? Because I will tell you, before I understood that, I would take every outburst as a personal attack against me, right? Because it was said to me. It was something that was projected at me, but it had nothing usually to do with me, right? And we can see that in coaching sessions when I'm working with somebody. I can see, some behavior that they'll describe, and I'll just start asking them some questions to really uncover, is this is this behavior a need for variety? Like, are you tired of the mundane, the everyday? Maybe you're missing purpose in your life. Right? So that's
Yeah.
kinda how we work through that muscle. It's soft, like, here we go, soft and if we pull it too much, we get wrinkles, we don't wanna do that, right? But it's something that we can work with grace and love and help them through.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for expanding on
Yeah, you're welcome. So what are we doing today? Really that?
that.
You know, I will tell you a little story. During that season of going through that painful empathy muscle building season that I was in, um, I kept feeling a common theme that resilience was rising. Resilience was rising, and I didn't really know what it was, but it was like, when you go through life, you're gonna hit like a hurdle, but then that hurdle that you hit actually gives you strength to jump the next hurdle, right? And I'm not a runner, so runner analogies are not great for me. But you're going through life, and when you overcome something, it actually gives you that skill, that development, that muscle to overcome the next thing. And in this season that I was in, I'm talking like 4 years, major hurdles, big things that just felt like at any point they could have crushed anybody. And the end of this season was in October of 2023. And I literally October 4th of 2023, we made the family decision to remove life support from my mom. That was a very hard decision. But we knew that she had fought several bouts of cancer and her body was just, it was done. Right. And so a couple weeks later, I'm back home, right? Reentry's a booger sometimes, but I'm back home and I didn't, bring home much from the funeral, but I brought home this one very special shirt that she used to wear. And this shirt was a bright blue shirt and it had the image of Rosie the Riveter on the front of it, muscles and everything. And on the top corner, it said lung cancer warrior. And man, when she wore that, we were always just so proud of her. And we would always just cheer her on. Yeah, mom, that's who you are, right? And she actually did beat lung cancer. So she's still a lung cancer warrior. But this day, it was October 23rd, 2023, I come home, I had gone to the gym and I was wearing that shirt because I just wanted to be close to her, I wanted to feel close to her. And for the first time wearing that shirt, I looked in the mirror and looked down. And yes, it had the lung cancer warrior and Rosie the Riveter, but underneath it, it said the word unbreakable. And, I had probably suppressed a lot of tears from funeral to then, and I just kinda lost it in that moment when I saw those words, and I yelled out at the Lord, I'm like, "God, why did she have to break? Like, why?" She was 56 years old, she loved you, like, I was just letting him have it, right? And in my spirit, I really felt, John, that he said to me, "Theresa, in life, things are going to crush you. They're gonna pull at you. They're gonna tear you down. They're gonna make you feel like you're breaking," he said. "But with the right foundation, until it's time to come home, you will remain unbreakable."
Mm.
And that moment gave me such peace and curiosity, right? The peace in knowing, okay, it really was time for mom to go home, and I'm okay with that. I can even today, I can see her body in that state, right? But he said with the right foundation, and I know that God is not a God of confusion, and so there was a reason why he used the word foundation. He could have used any other word, right? And he chose to use foundation and unbreakable. And so I started really like meditating and praying and getting real still about what were the foundational pillars that I had built over my life over that past 4 or 5 year period where I was walking through a healing journey. What were those foundational pillars? And I'll tell you, God just started rattling them off. Identity was number one. You have to know who you are. Right? If you don't know who you are, you will let the world label you. You will let circumstances label you. You will let careers label you. And then slowly, all of those things can be stripped away or quickly, because some
Mhm.
of those things can be removed really quickly, right? But then what's left? And if you can't answer that question, back to my two questions, who am I and why am I here? If we can't answer that question, then many times we find ourselves in a unretractable place. We can't come back, right? And I've seen way too many people who have placed all of their identity in outward things and they are full of depression and they just don't function today, right? So identity was one. Pillar number 2 that he showed me was our mindset. What is it that we think about? Because what we think about becomes planted into our hearts, into our nervous system, into our DNA. It becomes we create what we think, right? And so mindset and mind shifting became pillar number 2. Pillar number 3 became our beliefs and the ability not only to look at our beliefs and understand them, but challenge them. Because many times we have found that the beliefs that we carry, the ones that are running our entire lives, are not even ours to begin with,
Mhm.
right? So that was pillar number 3. Pillar number 4 is those traumatic defining moments in life. because defining moments become those catalyst moments that either cause us to pick up walls or to tear down fences, right? We can pick up walls and carry them forever and protect ourselves, or we can charge toward purpose. Defining moments do that. Pillar 5 was our health. I, in that journey, had to transform my health. I had no idea how intertwined my spiritual, physical, and mental health were connected, right? And so I had to really look at health, and health became a strong pillar because how are you going to live your purpose? You can't get out of bed,
Right.
right? Or you can't pick up the phone, or your stinking thinking is keeping you from seeing people and the love and the compassion that God calls you to. So that was pillar 5 was health. Pillar 6 is community. Who do you surround yourself with, and who is it that you are meant to serve? And then finally, pillar 7 is purpose. So, but God gave me that download. And from there, we launched the very first step. Step 1 was I knew how to get people together and have fun. So I launched a women's conference and not knowing anything about those pillars except they saved my life. And I had a lot of work to do to develop those, to build programs, to support people and all of that. But before I could even do that, I just had to take step 1. And so step 1 was to have an event, and we had a beautiful event, and we have pictures of it, and I will remember that forever as the moment that that first step became the trajectory for a whole new life for myself, for my family, for my husband, and hopefully for the world, right? I don't believe that that our purpose is limited. God is a generational God. Yeah.
Yes, he is. So again, I'm gonna ask, does it go always in that order?
So, yes and no. So, here, let me elaborate a little bit because that's a beautiful question.
Mhm.
Um, After I had those 7 pillars and I had my first conference, I was like, "Okay, God, where are the people?" You know?
Right.
I was like, "I have pillars. Who doesn't want pillars?"
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Where are the people?" And I got another download, John. The Holy Spirit just said to me in that moment, "Okay, Teresa, do you remember when you were breaking?" Uh-huh, right? Did you immediately run to a life coach? No, of course not, right? In fact, for the longest time, I blamed my business. I blamed my marriage. I blamed my career choice. I blamed all of these different things and kept seeking help to put those holes, right? To fill those holes.
Mm.
But I never dealt with the internal real issue, which was me. And that old adage is correct that says, it's not out there, it's in here, right? We got to fix this if we want to fix anything. And so what the Lord showed me with that was I needed to meet people where they were because not very many people are going to say, I don't know who I am. Some might, right? But not everybody. And most people, when we look at most coaching platforms, programs, courses, all these different things that are out there, most of them are still at the external focus. They're like, let's go find your purpose.
Mhm.
But they don't actually deal with the human identity. And I will tell you, I was a chaser of purpose before I knew who Theresa Pore was. And that's why all those hats that I wore felt like they didn't fit because the purpose I was chasing wasn't in alignment to who I was. Right. That was a big, big lesson for me. So, but to be obedient to that phase is we decided to launch different areas to reach people. So we don't just have the Unbreakable life, which is what we have the foundation of everything built on, but now we have Unbreakable Business. It's a business ecosystem program that offers the 3 most important components, I believe: education, motivation, and collaboration, plus systems to support small businesses. That's our Unbreakable business platform. We have Unbreakable marriages, because I know I'm not the only one that blamed my spouse, right? And our Unbreakable marriage platform helps guide people from wholeness to oneness into legacy. And so that, when people come to us for marriage, that's it. But they get the underlying pillar work. Unbreakable finances, we have to help people from financial literacy to legacy. And that program is designed also to help Yeah, we're going to help you teach you spending habits and all that stuff, saving habits, but we're also going to do that identity and mindset work because there's a reason God gives you financial resources. He's expecting you to be a steward to handle his real gifts, which is people, right? And so we have all of these different areas to meet people, unbreakable health, all these different areas to meet people at, but the foundation of all of them is 7 pillars.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you listed them, and then we could always dive into all of them, but we're not gonna do that because we don't have that much time, I don't think, 'cause there's a lot to tap into here. So, how does somebody connect with you, learn more about your programs and everything else you have going on, more events? I don't know, your podcast, please share.
Absolutely, thank you. Unbreakable-enterprises.com. I had to get the dash because somebody else had Unbreakable Enterprises. Unbreakable-enterprises.com is kind of the doorway into our whole ecosystem. From there, people can take what we call the alignment assessment. And, a lot of programs call it the wheel of life, but we call it alignment. We believe that God created us, to have these perfect, beautiful lives. Like that's his initial intent. But what happens along the way is we get out of alignment. And so we created this alignment assessment to get people to just be aware of the areas of life that they may be out of alignment so they understand which pathway to start with, right? Some people 100%, they're not sleeping at night because the financial piece is stealing all of their certainty and it's causing them fights in their relationship. It's causing them to be not successful at work. So finance may be the track for them, right? Others, it may be health. Others, it may be marriage. But that alignment assessment, which is found on our website, gives us a starting point to know how to serve people.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. And so
Absolutely.
I have one question I ask everybody. So, what are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
Oh, man. Three key things I've learned and used. Well, number one, it's not about me. Oh, that's a hard one. Yeah. We are taught our whole life we are a me, 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 me world, right?
Yeah.
But it's really not about me. It's about everyone that God gives me the absolute privilege to speak to, teach, love, and support. And I use that. I remind myself of that on a daily basis. So I think number one is it's not about me. Number two, I would say a common thread throughout everything that I've done is collaboration. Um, in Oh, again, back to number 1, me, 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 right? We're taught our entire lives that, I've gotta fix it. I've gotta have the answers. I've gotta be the one. I've gotta prove myself, all those things. But God actually called us to be a body, and he's very specific about that, in First Corinthians, he's very specific about it. And in that, when I refuse to be part of a body, when I refuse to let others around me share and showcase their gifts, and I try to carry it all on my own, I can actually do more damage to people than good because I am not equipped, no matter how many empathy muscles he gives me. I could look like the Hulk and not have enough muscle to serve everybody, right? So I think number two is collaboration. And I think maybe, number three is faith. Right? Absolute faith um, that if he called us to it, he will perform it. And all we have to do is take one step at a time.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'll add on to that one because I just picked this up not too long ago. Um, sometimes I'll listen to Stephen Furnick, right? And so his one thing was, you can ask Giselle, it was probably in the last week or whatever, but it was like, what's the next step, right? And just focus on that. And I know that's where you're kind of leading to, right? And you're just doing one thing at a time. What's the next step? And then it's within his time, right? So don't push it so much because it's going to come at the right time. But yeah, I'm glad you shared that. All three of them, and then I was able to touch on the faith part at the end there because I felt like it tied in. So I appreciate it. Um,
Oh,
Teresa, you're amazing. You're doing amazing things, and I'm glad you came on. You shared your journey with us, and just let me know if there's anything I could do to support you along the way, and we can just stay in touch. And I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Hey, I'm so proud of you with life's check mark. I need to get you back on my show. We're gonna fill that second, third, and fourth book, my friend.
That's right. I know. I can't wait for the second one to get filled up. So yeah, no, I appreciate it again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.